Welcome to the JP8 Report. This is James Pierce with JP8 Report, episode 377. Good afternoon, everybody. I survived the VA. That's a whole different story sometimes. But no, really, truly, I had to drive 40 minutes for a 10-minute appointment and then 40 minutes back home. But that's all right. I'm doing good. That's all that matters. Hey, if you're a veteran, you know, right? So, welcome to the podcast, the JPA Report. I squeezed in a 15-minute nap before I came on the air. I'm ready. Okay, let's do this. All right. So, please click the follow button. Please click the follow button. Give me a like for the podcast for the day, and then jump in on the chat, and let's do some work here. Do some damage. If you do the live chat, just understand it's temporary. It goes away at the end of the podcast, so we can cut up and enjoy ourselves a little bit. I do have a couple of hall monitors that jump in every now and then to help. There you go. There's one right there. Covite for life. My great friend Richard, and then I may have Rob in here today, but he's been doing a lot of medical and VA appointments, so he may be occupied. All right, but thanks a lot for joining in. Like I said, don't forget to click that follow button, and don't forget to click that like button, please. All right. So before we get started, I just got this off X. It came out this morning. It's from the Department of War. Look, I'm a combat vet. I did 25 years in the Army. I retired in 2012. And y'all may say, it don't matter anymore because you're no longer in the military. Once you're a soldier, you're always a soldier. Just like any other veteran, like my buddy Richard, a Covite for life. He's a Navy veteran. He'll always be a sailor. Always. It's in his blood now, right? So when we had our traitorous withdrawal or surrender in Afghanistan in 2021, that was personal. When those 13 soldiers and Marines died at Abbey Gate, that was personal. All right, got this utmost cowardice. What do you call it? Dereliction of duty from our leadership. That's all it was, right? So Pete Hegseth, the secretary, wrote this today, and this is awesome. I don't know if anyone else has heard it. Sean Parnell, he's the Assistant Secretary of War for Press. The following Afghanistan Withdrawal Special Review Panel's recommendation, and at the direction of the Secretary of War Pete Hegseth, the United States Marine Corps has upgraded the Valor Awards for the Marines of Company G, 2nd Battalion, 1st Marines, who stood at Abbey Gate on the 26th of August, 2021. After reviewing the original awards and determining that several had been inappropriately downgraded, these awards have now been upgraded to the levels that more accurately reflect the extreme risk these Marines knowingly accepted in their lives and the lives that they saved under direct enemy fire. The Marines at Abbey Gate were positioned in the direct blast zone with minimal cover, fully aware of the imminent suicide attack, yet they held their ground to keep evacuation operations running. Their actions that day were heroic. The original awards did not reflect that reality. Today's upgrades correct that injustice. The outcome would not have happened without the personal leadership and commitment of the Undersecretary of War for Personnel and Readiness, Anthony Tata. He's a retired general from the Army, okay? And Senior Advisor Stu Scheller, who worked tirelessly behind the scenes to ensure these Marines receive the recognition they deserve. Mr. Scheller personally shepherded this effort, driving the process forward until justice was done. This outcome also demonstrates that the Afghan Withdrawal Special Review Panel was created to do: examine the full record, identify the system failed our warfighters, and ensure accountability and fairness. The Department of War under President Trump and Secretary Hegseth is committed to getting this right. We will not allow valor performed at the point of friction to be diminished by bureaucratic and administrative shortcomings. To the Marines of Company G and to every service member who stood by Abbey Gate, your actions were seen, your sacrifice was measured correctly, and your valor is not properly recognized. The panel will continue in its broader work to ensure the lessons from 2021 are learned and that we never again place our warfighters in positions where their courage is not fully honored. We owe the American people, the families of the fallen, even though Joe Biden checked his watch during the ceremony, every service member who served in Afghanistan, nothing less than the truth and the corrections that the truth demands. I think that's a really, really good statement. I would like to see what those awards were upgraded to and give them the full respect that they and honor that they deserve. Because it's one thing putting it on paper, but advertising is different. Their families deserve that honor to show the world what their loved ones died for and what they were posthumously decorated for. All right, that was, man. I did not look. I'm an Afghan veteran myself. I wear this hat. I used to wear my Iraqi freedom hat, but Afghan is something different, okay? And if you were there, you understand the type of environment, the people there, and the realities of what we had there. All right, we all know that the difference between Al Qaeda and Taliban and the Iraqi insurgents. In Iraq, they used to lob indirect fire on us all the time. I think they invented the term indirect fire in Iraq because that's all they dropped on us. They just mortar after mortar after mortar after rocket after rocket. But in Afghanistan, you know what I learned? They would drop mortars and rockets on you, then they would attack you. Okay, they actually fought, and you could ask any person out there that was in Afghanistan. That's what happened. I'm glad this was done, and I'd like to see the end result also. Man. Okay, clear my mind. All right. So America 250. I'm going to continue going through the thoughts on government from John Adams. Okay. Let me get set up here. I'm sorry if I broke down a little bit on that, but like I said, that's personal. Give me an American flag if you appreciate the United States Army and the Marine Corps and the Navy and the Air Force. All right. If I can find the enter button. There we go. All righty. Leave a comment if you want to. They appreciate the service that they all do. All right. So part 3. But remember, this is John Adams with his pamphlet, Thoughts on Government, in April 1776. But shall the whole power of legislation rest in one assembly? Most of the foregoing reasons apply equally to prove that the legislative power to be more complex, to which we may add that if the legislative power is wholly in one assembly and the executive in another, or in a single person, those two powers will oppose and innovate upon each other until the contest shall end in war, and the whole power, legislative and executive, be usurped by the strongest. The judicial power, in such case, could not mediate or hold the balance between the two contending powers, because the legislative would undermine it, and this shows the necessity, too, of giving the executive power a negative upon the legislative. Otherwise, this will be continually encroaching upon that. To avoid these dangers, let a distant assembly be constituted as a mediator between the two extreme branches of the legislature, that which represents the people and that which it is vested with executive power. Hold on just a second, I got breaking news. Democrat Representative David Scott dead at age 80. Okay. Just so you know, anytime I get breaking news, I'm going to tell you. Okay, so I don't know if he is a presently a congressman or a retired congressman, but he's from the Democrat Party. All right, so let me finish this up over here. Let the Representative Assembly then elect by ballot from among themselves or their constituents, or both, a distinct assembly, which, for the sake of perspicuity, we will call a council. It may consist of any number you please, let's say 20 or 30, and should have a free and independent exercise of its judgment, and consequently a negative voice in the legislature. These two bodies, thus constituted and made integral parts of the legislature, to let them unite and by joint ballot choose a governor, who, after being stripped of most of these badges of domination called prerogatives, should have a free and independent exercise of his judgment, and be made also an integral part of the legislature. This, I know, is liable to objections, and if you please to make him only president of the council, as in Connecticut, but as the governor, to be invested with executive power with consent of the council, I think he ought to have a negative upon the legislature. If he is annually elected, as he ought to be, he will always have so much reverence and affection for the people, their representatives and counselors, that although you give him an independent exercise of his judgment, he will seldom use it upon the opposition to the two houses, except in the case of public utility, of which would be conspicuous, and in some such cases would happen. In the present exigency of American affairs, when by the act of Parliament we are put out of our royal protection and consequently discharged from our allegiance, and it has become necessary to assume government for our own immediate security, the governor, lieutenant governor, secretary, treasury, commissary, attorney general would be chosen by joint ballot of both houses. And these and all other elections, especially of representatives and councilors, should be annual, not being in the whole circles of the sciences a maximum more infallibility than this, where annual elections end, there slavery begins. What he's saying is that if we don't continually elect our representatives, they'll be masters over us with no voice in what they do. All right. These great men, in this respect, should be once a year. This will teach them the great political virtues of humility, patience, and moderation, without every man in power become the ravenous beast of prey. This mode of constituting the great offices of state will answer every well for the president, but if by experiment it would be found inconvenient, the legislature may, at its leisure, devise other methods of creating them by elections of the people at large, as in Connecticut, or it may enlarge the term for which they shall be chosen to 7 years, or 3 years, or for life, or make any other alterations which the society shall find productive of its ease, its safety, its freedom, and in one word, its happiness. All right, so that was part 3. All right, and then we'll continue on tomorrow. All right, let me put this over here. All right, so got that done. So let me tell you about the armament shop. We got the armament shop here. Whether you're looking for your first firearm, upgrading your setup, or need expert service, Jason at the armament shop is Copper's Cove's premier source for all things shooting. Browse our wide selection of pistols, rifles, and shotguns, backed by top-tier gunsmithing for repairs and professional cleaning to keep your firearm in peak condition. Need a transfer? We make FFL, that's Federal Firearms License, transfers fast, easy, and affordable. Need a CHL? That's a concealed handgun license. We give those classes too. Visit the armament shop today at 115 Suite A, West Avenue D in Copper's Cove, or call at 254-560-2023. The Armament Shop, your safety, our priority. All right, and that's Jason. All right, so give him a call and we can take care of you with that. All right, so onward to the Iran update. All right, so how's everybody doing, guys? Not very much engaged on the chat right now, but come on, let's get going. Let's help out some, okay? All right, so hold on just a second. My phone froze. It sure did freeze. Wow, hold on just a second here. That's weird. Wow. My phone's acting up, guys. Trying to turn it off. As you know, this stuff is important to do. Give me a second here. Okay, I'm going to just restart. All right, so sorry about that, guys. Let me take care of logistics here. Iran update. Operation Fury, we're still in the ceasefire. Iran fired on 2 ships and took them to port. Rumors are they fired on 3. One was able to get out of the area because it was in the Gulf of Oman, which is outside the Strait of Hormuz. Trump extended the ceasefire yesterday to approximately 3 to 5 days. He said it would be short term. Trump says the talks may be beginning on Friday. All right. I don't know if that's Friday our time or Friday their time, because Friday is the Muslims' holy day. So I don't know if they would do talks on that day or not. We will see. First, they got to get there, right? Iran is threatening regional power plants. If we attack their power plants, they said they would attack these. Don't ask me which ones that they would actually attack with, but they said they would. The IRGC blocks the Iranian president from making any presidential appointments, and they said the senior leader is in seclusion. They blocked him from all access to everybody. It seems like to me, and it ain't out there in the news, this is opinion from James, right? It seems to me that the IRGC is slowly taking control of the entire country. And it's going to be a military junta like you saw back in the about 2000 time frame with in Egypt, okay? So I bet that's what's being transformed right now. The civilian leadership is taken out. They're protecting the spiritual leader so that he lives, because he is the Ayatollah for them, right? So it looks like the Iranian military is taking over the entire government. That's what it looks like. Or it's a soft coup. They're not going in guns blazing and killing everybody in sight yet. The next is Iran is losing $500 million per day, and that's because of oil can't get out. Now, the problem with that is they said within 13 days, all avenues of storage for oil in Iran will be full, which means the next step after that is they have to turn off the pumps for the oil wells. And what that means, if they have to turn off the pumps at the oil wells, that kills the well effectively. And most of the time, they have to re-drill the well to make it productive again. That means millions of dollars in drilling costs to make that happen. All right? So there's ramifications for delaying the inevitable of going through the ceasefire and accepting that there's nothing that they could really do to the U.S. to affect us. So they need to capitulate and adhere to what we're telling them. No nuclear weapons in Iran at all. All right? CENTCOM, Admiral Cooper said that U.S. forces are rearmed, retooled, and ready to carry on the fight if need be. And Iran vows to break the U.S. blockade. Okay, so that is the Iran update, except for Brent crude oil is topped $100 a barrel again. It's at 101.90. That's up from this morning of approximately $2 a barrel. West Texas Intermediate is at $93.04. That's up $2.50 a barrel from this morning. And then the Dow Jones Industrial Average is up 331 points, 0.95. And that is currently at 49,481.33. That is the Iran update for this afternoon. All right. So, the JP8, man, okay, the JP8 report. We're going to start with Iran. I was talking a little bit about this morning. President Trump extended the ceasefire with Iran until Tuesday afternoon. And we heard this morning that it was 3 to 5 days after the American negotiating team led by Vice President delayed plans to travel to Pakistan. He said, based on the fact that the government of Iran is seriously fractured, not expectedly so, and upon the request of Field Marshal Asa Munir and Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif of Pakistan, we have been asked to hold off our attack on the country of Iran until such a time as their leaders and representatives can come up with a unified proposal. I have therefore directed the military to continue the blockade and on all other respects remain ready and able and will therefore extend the ceasefire till such as the time the proposal is submitted and discussions are concluded one way or another. The open-ended ceasefire extension followed heavy speculation about whether fighting would resume when the truce's original 2-week duration lapsed today. Vice President arrived at the White House shortly before 1 p.m. Tuesday, as doubts grew that he would travel as planned to Islamabad for negotiations, and it is now unclear when he might make the 17-hour flight. And Special Envoy Steve Witkoff and Trump's son-in-law Jared Kushner are expected in Pakistan capital, but instead traveled from Miami to the White House for Tuesday afternoon meetings. Iran had not told mediators it would send reps, and Pakistani sources told the Post, stalling the U.S. delegation's trip. Iran's government is believed to be divided between hardliners associated with the IRGC, which is closely associated with the ruling Khomeini family, and more moderate leaders such as the president Perezikian. Negotiators ultimately are accountable to the supreme leader, though his whereabouts are unknown, and U.S. officials believe reaching him directly by phone is out of the question, adding further complexity to detailed discussions. Mahdi Mohammadi is an advisor to Iran's parliament speaker and negotiator Mohammad Bagher Ghalibaf. Ripped Trump's announcement on X and suggested attacks could begin regardless. Trump's ceasefire extension means nothing. The losing side cannot dictate terms. I don't know what this guy is smoking, but it's something pretty potent. As soon as they block this blockade, I think the next round of negotiation will take place in Islamabad. If they want to sit at the table and discuss and find a political solution, they will find us ready. If they want to go to war, in this case, also Iran is ready. Vance, Witkoff, and Kushner previously held 21 hours of talks with Iranian officials on April 10th and 11th, but went home without a deal. Well, they haven't suffered enough yet. All right? You can tell they're hard at work with all this. And soon we will have some type of realization of what's going on. We just got to be ready for it. Okay, hold on. All right. So, next subject, Virginia. There's a whole heap of trouble coming down in Virginia right now. Right now, we took a loss. We took a 1.9% loss on that ballot initiative in Virginia last night. I'm talking about Republicans, okay? We know the Virginians. Matter of fact, if you look at it like this, more people voted no on this referendum than voted for President Trump in the presidential election a year and a half ago. So there are Democrats that do not appreciate what the Democrat Party did in Virginia, and they will probably take a punishment out of this. I said this morning. Now, regardless of what the end result of these borders are on these congressional districts, that in the end, it's the candidate that's got to get out there and make it happen and get people to vote for that person. They had to dilute the voting base to get these majority Democrat districts. So it makes it within more of a reach to to get voters to vote Republican than they were before. Vince said this morning. Dan Bongino said this morning. Even Lawrence Jones III on Fox News said this morning. And I said it before them, but that's another story. But it's very true. I mean, it's up to the candidate itself to make this happen. If you're the conservative in race, you're going to honestly tell people that you're conservative. If you're lying and you're holding back, the people you're asking to vote for you will see straight through you. And they will go vote for another person because they know they can't trust you. So you got to get out there. I mean, the days of like, just put me in a 60-40 district and I'll be great. And I can serve 4, 5, 6 terms in Congress if I want. You know what? It's your job to be the politician. If you want to make that $176,000 a year, if you want to be a congressman and hold that title, that just a few thousands in our entire history of our country has ever done, you go out and do it. It's your prerogative. Now, I will say this also, that I'm not even reading this stuff right now. So if you look at the congressional map that they're planning to do in Virginia, you'll see in Fairfax County up in the I'm going to use this as a tool. If you look in the far northeast section of Virginia, where it's like, if you look in that one, it says number 1, and that far, you go all the way north and go all the way right where it's dark blue. That's Fairfax County, okay? Now, you see how big that is? There's 1.15 million people that live in that county. And they're planning to put 5 congressional districts in that county. 5, right? So I was like, well, that's weird, because I think Tarrant County, where I grew up at, has 5 congressional districts. And I looked it up. Okay, I'm not going to put it over there. So I just did a Google search on it, and it came back. So Tarrant County, Texas is where Fort Worth is. It's in the Metroplex. Okay, so it has 5 congressional districts in it. 12, 24, 25, 26. 12, 24, 25, 26. And I only put 4 on there. Well, the 10th is the other one. Okay, but how many people live? What is the population? What? Okay, but there's 2.5 to 3 million people that live in Tarrant County, and we only have 5 congressional seats. But Fairfax County in Virginia has 5 going through it, and they only got 1.15 million. What is wrong with this scenario, right? So what they did was they took a super saturated Democrat area and put slivers of all 5, because you go through, within 15 miles, you go through all 5 congressional districts, and they spiderweb out. Okay, they call it the spider web. All right. So what it does is it dilutes it from like 60-40, 35-65, or 55-45, and it dilutes it down to where, if you look at this again, you'll see, well, no, it doesn't show it right. Okay. You'll see a lot of light blue or light red, and what it is diluting it down to like it's a 47-53 district, right? So it goes from hard, solid R to lean R, or like lean D, or up for grabs, toss up, or solid D, and it dilutes it down to the light blue or the light red, and like both sides get a chance. That's why I'm saying get out there and make your voice heard, and get yourself elected. You can't like wait for the penalty flag to go up and stuff, right? That's what I'm saying. All right. If you want it, you go out and get it, and just keep raising money. People got to be willing to donate to give you a fighting chance to make sure you actually win your race. Right. Okay. So what this right here means, right, is you'll see mail-in ballots, total vote, net mail-in ballots, and ballot share, mail-in ballot share, total vote. Right, man. If you look at it, you're looking at like over 30% of the vote came in by mail-in ballot, and that's right for. That's why the president wants on the Save America Act, because it greatly restricts the availability of mail-in ballots in the country. You can't tell me that 30% of the people that voted, and the vast majority of them are Democrat, uh, aren't able to go to the polls. Because the next thing I'm going to tell you is that you had 6 weeks to go vote, and you had to mail in a mail-in ballot. I mean, here in Texas, we get like, I think 10 days to go early vote. And it used to be 2 weeks, but they reduced it, but they expanded the hours, right? Honestly, I think it should be 1 week plus election day. But okay, we'll take 2 weeks vote. 6 weeks of early vote. What could go wrong? I mean, y'all tell me what could go wrong in this type of situation where you get 6 weeks to go vote. That's why we need verification, photo ID, citizenship, restrict the number of days you can go vote, and restrict the availability of mail-in ballots. We need it. We need it really bad. So the last night, after the vote failed, King Cuccinelli, he used to be with the Trump administration in the first one, and he was deputy. I believe he was deputy Secretary of Homeland Security, right? So he wrote 4 constitutional challenges for that ballot measure. It's going to go before the Virginia Supreme Court next Monday. Let me get out of here. All right. So 3 challenges to the amendment. The first passage was invalid. The amendment was taken up during a special session that convened in 2024 for budget purposes. That's like with reconciliation, right? You can only put budgetary matters in a reconciliation bill. You can't put policy, right? Direct laws. It's got to be monetary, right? So the amendment was taken up during a special session convened in 2024 for budget purposes. The General Assembly's own call to the governor under Article 4, Section 6, and Article 5, Section 5, and its governing resolution, 8 House Joint Resolution 6001, limited the session's scope, expanding it to include a constitutional amendment on redistricting required a 2/3 vote that never occurred, and Tazewell County judge found this action void ab initio. Then there's Article 2, Section 1 requires that after the first passage, a proposed amendment be referred to the General Assembly at its first regular session held after the next general election members of the House of Delegates, and an election must intervene between the first and second passage. Here, the first passage occurred during the election cycle and not before the intervening one. Article 12, Section 1 requires the amendment be submitted to voters not sooner than 90 days after final passage by the General Assembly. The timeline for the second passage to the April 21 vote did not satisfy the requirement. And then one other challenge was Article 2, Section 6 required that every electoral district shall be composed of a continuous and compact territory, and proposed congressional maps violate this congruity requirement rather badly. And the first arguments get expedited on Monday morning, April 27th, in Virginia. Like I said this morning, I have no idea if the Virginia Supreme Court votes in the negative for this. Do these people have the capability of um, appealing it to the U.S. Supreme Court or the U.S. Appeals Court? I don't know the answer to that. If someone does know, please put it in the comments or put it in the live chat for us, okay? And then before we go on to another subject, I'm going to read what the RNCC chair said about this. The House Republican campaign chair said that the narrow passage on Tuesday of the Democrat-fueled congressional redistricting in Virginia can't redraw reality, quote unquote. In a statement moments after the Associated Press reported that Virginia's congressional redistricting referendum has passed by voters, the NRCC chair, Richard Hudson of North Carolina, said, this close margin reinforces that Virginia is a purple state that shouldn't be represented by a severe partisan gerrymander. That's exactly why the courts, who have already ruled twice to block the egregious power grab, should uphold Virginia law. Even under this map, Republicans will hold the majority based on a record cleaning up Democrats' mess on a historic war chest that litigates the Democrats' failures, Hudson argued. And he emphasized that Virginia Democrats can't redraw reality. Passage of the ballot measure gives the Democrats control of Virginia legislature rather than the current state nonpartisan commission. The temporary redistricting power through 2030, it could result in a 10-1 advantage for Democrats, up from their current of 6-5. And if upheld by Virginia's Supreme Court, the redraw could give Democrats an additional 4 left-leaning U.S. House seats ahead of the midterms as the party lines tries to win back control of the chamber from the GOP, which currently holds a razor-thin majority. All right? So we shall see. We all hold our breath, and we hear arguments starting on April 27th in Richmond. All right? I believe it's in Richmond. All right, next. The Fifth U.S. Court of Appeals in New Orleans upheld Senate Bill 10 here in Texas. Senate Bill 10 had a provision in it that requires all public schools in the state of Texas post a copy of the 10 Commandments. Matter of fact, it says what kind of paper it's got to be on and what size and where it needs to be posted, right? Because, some people around here will actually post that like under a desk or behind a filing cabinet or something. But it's got to be in a certain part of the classroom. It's got to be posted. It's got to be framed where everybody can see it. It got challenged by many school districts. And Attorney General Paxton took it to court. And they got one judge ruled, and then they got appealed by the school districts to the 11th by the Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals, and it required a 9-8 ruling. 17 judges heard the arguments for this for the SB 10 for the 10 Commandments, right? The outcome of it was in the positive, and now, like I said, that the 10 Commandments got to be posted in schoolrooms across Texas. In a 9-8 ruling, the 17-member Fifth Circuit Court of Appeals upheld Senate Bill 10, the law passed by Texas Republican legislature, and it does not violate either the U.S. Constitution's Establishment Clause or the Free Exercise Clause, because plaintiffs failed to show that SB 10 substantially burdens the right for religious exercise. Their free exercise claims must be dismissed. Tuesday's rulings reverses a previous injunction issued by a federal judge in 2025, who had previously argued the law failed to demonstrate a historical tradition of public schools posting the Ten Commandments, a standard he claims was necessary for the bill to withstand. Excuse me, I did not mean that. Sorry about that. One of the most important religious liberty victories for Texas is our glorious history. Jonathan Senez, president and attorney for Texas Values, who defended the law. Texas continues to lead the nation in defending both religious liberty and constitutional truth. Today's ruling confirms that our state can honor the moral heritage that undergirds our legal system without violating the First Amendment, said. The decision to make clear that acknowledging the historical foundations of our laws is not only permissible, it is fully consistent with the Constitution. And then Phil King, he's a Texas senator, said, and he was the author of the Ten Commandments bill, said the court's decision means that the state isn't required to erase its history. The Ten Commandments have been referenced throughout our nation's civic life because they are part of the historical tradition that influenced American law. The Fifth Circuit properly applied the Constitution as written and understood rather than rewriting it to scrub away our heritage. It says, under state law, SB 10 requires that a conspicuous copy of the Ten Commandments be displayed in every classroom in every public school and open enrollment charter school in Texas. The court ruled that it was not bound by Stone versus Graham, a 1980 U.S. Supreme Court case in which justices struck down a Kentucky law requiring public schools to post religious texts in classrooms. The case centered on a bill passed by Kentucky lawmakers that required hanging posters of the Ten Commandments. At the time, the High Court found that the law violated the First Amendment because it lacked a secular purpose, and they implemented the secular purpose when they passed this bill. All right. So in Texas schools now, they got to be able to post. They have to post the Ten Commandments, which is great. All right, because we need a good example for moral code for our kids to look up. And they don't have to be a saved Christian to understand what the Ten Commandments are. It goes all the way back to the founding of the Jewish nation, right? When Moses came down from the mount with the Ten Commandments. But if you're a secular person and you're looking at this piece of paper on the wall that says, do not steal, do not covet, do not lie, do not commit adultery, do not get jealous and try and want to forcibly take anything from your friend or your enemy that's not yours. I mean, that's the moral code that our country goes through every single day. And it does not matter if you're Jewish, Christian, Catholic, Mormon, or Islamic. It does not matter. When you look at this sheet of paper on the wall that's framed, you'll see our moral code. And you know better that I can get in trouble if I violate these issues that are on this piece of paper, right? And you can look at it as a sheet of paper and go from there. But I firmly believe that's the word of God. It's an inspired word of God written by man. All right, but it gives purpose and it builds moral character for all these kids going to school. So hopefully one day they don't go out and make the mistake a lot of kids are continually making by making irrational decisions because they really don't care about right or wrong with no conscience. All right. So next, deals with the military right here. If you're still on here, give me an American flag, okay? Or just say hello. Let me see if you're alive, all right? In a 6-3 decision on Wednesday this morning, the Supreme Court allowed a lawsuit brought by a U.S. Army veteran injured in a Taliban suicide bombing to proceed, vacating lower court ruling that had dismissed it. As a 6-3 ruling, Winston Tyler Hensley, a former U.S. Army specialist, suffered a fractured skull and brain injuries when a Taliban operative working for a military contractor blew up a suicide vest on Bagram in 2016. That's where I was stationed at. A majority opinion written by Justice Clarence Thomas rejected a broad battlefield preemption theory that it would have blocked state law claims from tied to combat activities. Thomas, joined by Justices Sonia Sotomayor, Alina Keegan, Neil Gorsuch, Amy Coney Barrett, and Ketanji Brown Jackson, wrote that military contractors are not automatically shielded from liability when their conduct was not authorized by the military, even in war zones. We vacate the judgment by the Fourth Circuit and remand the case for further proceedings consistent with this opinion. In 2016, a Taliban operative working for Respondent Flour Corporation, that's the Flour is a conglomerate that operates most of the mess halls in the military when they were all overseas. Where was I at? Oh, yeah. A military contractor carried out a suicide bomb attack at Bagram Airfield in Afghanistan after then Army Specialist Winston Hensley confronted him. The bomber detonated his suicide vest. As a result of his injuries he received, Hensley is now permanently disabled. In an effort to recover damages for his injuries, Hensley sued Floor, bringing state law tort claims for negligently retraining and supervising the attacker. According to Hensley and the United States military, Fleur's conduct was not authorized by the military and been violated instruction the military had given as a condition for operating on the base. And Justices Alito, Roberts, and Kavanaugh dissented and said this is a developing story. Because I printed this off just a little while ago. Look at it like this. He was on Bagram, he was a contractor, and usually, and it's sad to say, because I've seen it happen before with like IDF and stuff, indirect fire, that if a contractor gets hit by indirect fire on a fob, if it happens to us, we go see the medics, we go to operating room, whatever we need to do to save our life. Most of the time, contractors don't have that support system, and it's usually bad for them, right? But he sued, especially since he's a veteran, he sued for damages from Flour. Flour is not even an American company; it's an international conglomerate, right? So he can actually sue Flour for negligence for allowing that TCN or that Taliban person entry into the military mess hall area I know exactly where that mess hall is too. Uh, that was totally messed up. I'm glad he's alive, and hopefully he gets the compensation he needs to continue on with his life as comfortably as he can, because he's permanently disabled, right? All right. So what are we looking at? We're at 12:55. The Fifth U.S. Circuit Court of Appeals, no, not the fifth, the 11th in Florida, ruled 2-1 that alligator Alcatraz. We haven't heard much about that lately, right? But there's some protesters that wanted it closed. They said it was not legitimately open, that the U.S. couldn't open it because it was developed with using taxpayer funds. Well, the reality of it was state funds from Florida was used to activate it. I think the Governor DeSantis said that it was already ready to go. They just had to erect some tents, right? Well, in a 2-1 decision, um, on a 2-1 decision, the 11th Circuit Court of Appeals says it can remain open because it was built by the state of Florida and not by the U.S. government. That's going to make a lot of bleeding art liberals mad and upset, and they'll cry crocodile tears. I really don't care. This is another facility used where they can deport illegal aliens back to their home countries or third countries, right? So that's really good. Yeah, the court wrote that Florida had received no federal reimbursement when U.S. District Court Kathleen Williams' preliminary injunction ordered a gradual winding down operation last year. So she had no authority to be able to wind down the ops because the U.S. government didn't put no money in it. All right. Congratulations to the Trump people. And then this is, I guess we're not going to get anything else. Well, hey, just to let y'all know that Congresswoman used to be Sheila McCormick resigned from Congress last night, and that she will no longer be expelled from Congress. So they're down another Democrat. She's a good one to go, okay? The only one next is Corey Mills, a Republican, and we'll see where that goes. But yeah, so she resigned. She's facing 53 years in prison for what she did with taxpayer dollars. So yesterday afternoon, there was a press conference by the acting Attorney General Todd Blanche, talking about the Southern Poverty Law Center, that they were indicted for fraud, and that it's not politically motivated, but it was an egregious conflict, right? So, acting Attorney General Todd Blanche said the federal indictment of the SPLC is not politically motivated, and during the appearance Tuesday on the Ingram Angle, the Alabama-based civil rights group was federally indicted Tuesday on fraud charges and is accused of funneling millions of dollars to pay informants to infiltrate the extremist groups like the Ku Klux Klan. Really, I'm serious about that. The indictment is free for everyone to read, if the takeaway is that it's political, I mean, I think the opposite is true. Blanche described the SPLC's alleged conduct as extraordinary egregious, saying that the group paid $3 million to people associated with the United Klans of America and other extremist groups from 2014 to 2023. They even paid the extremist group to march on Charlottesville in 2017. Okay? And then President Trump was blamed for that protest, in which money came from the SPLC to fund them so they can actually make it. They said it was, we were using paid informants to bring information back about all these different groups they gave money. One of them they gave like $1 million to, really, $1 million to be a spy. But like people have been saying all morning long, what gave them the right to put undercover people into that organization? And this applies to a few conservative groups too that are undercover and they do this kind of stuff. It's called entrapment. But you know how dangerous that is? They were using people. Okay, so I was going to mention Jamie O'Keefe, right? But this is not what he is not uh, paying people to make to do stuff illegal. What these guys did, they were paying money to these extremist groups to go and break the law. That's what they were doing. All right. And then the Biden administration caught wind of this in 2021 and then closed the file on it in 2022. I am serious. Autopin with Merrick Garland closed the investigation on the SPLC in 2022, and nobody is saying why. We could understand why, because the SPLC is sitting on like $800 million. It's a fund that could float money into elections, and there's not a thing Republicans do about it. That's what they call dark money, right? And to sit there and the SPLC, this is a civil rights group. And really, truly, they're anything but civil rights. Anything that they do, they are defrauding the people that's been giving them money for generations to build up that $800 million fund. And the pay groups. Okay, so the groups. Let's see. This one doesn't have the groups on there, but yeah, the Blanche claimed the SPLC funded informants to help infiltrate the deadly KKK rally in Charlottesville in 2017. There was a lot of groups. Oh, okay. Here they are. United Klans of America, the KKK, the neo-Nazis, the there's about 5 or 6 groups that they named. They're not all on this one. But the problem is they're not a law enforcement agency and they should not be actually going out there and performing the duties of a law enforcement agency. That's what they make the FBI and the U.S. Marshals for, right? And they're doing this. And what they're doing is blackmailing, creating problems, and then trying to blame the Republicans on this. And the Republicans aren't anti-civil rights because, we're the ones that freed the slaves in the first place, right? Democrats are causing most of these problems. Back a few months ago, we stopped the Trump administration stopped all associations with the SPLC and the ADL. So both of those groups have been ostracized away from the federal government. They really don't need our stuff anyway. I've never liked the SPLC. I always thought something was wrong with them. Now we know. Like I said, well, why didn't DOJ indict the SPLC? Because they were afraid of the political ramifications of an indictment for that organization. It's been bleeding members for years. It's been bleeding money that's still sitting on $800 million. But we're going to do the right thing and equal out justice in our country to make it fair. This is one way we're going to do it. People need to go to jail for doing that because that's fraud and RICO and extortion. That's exactly what it is. All right. We are at 105. Man, I'm never going to get around to this stuff. All right. So do I do another one or do I go for big? I am hungry though. I know that. Okay, let's go over this real quick. Are y'all ready? So Harmit Dillon, she's a civil rights chief for the Department of Justice, demanded on just a few days ago, 2 days ago, the DOJ demands 865,000 Detroit ballots from 2024. Michigan is among the states doubling down on rejecting the Trump administration investigations oversight into elections, claiming protection of right to vote, potentially setting up a battle that can escalate to the Supreme Court. The Justice Department is demanding that roughly 865,000 ballots and hundreds of thousands of related election records from the Detroit area's 2024 election, threatening to seek a court order if the materials are not turned over within 14 days. In an April 14 letter to Wayne County Circuit, Kathy Garrett, U.S. Attorney General Harmit Dillon, asked for all ballots, including absentee and provisional, ballot receipts, ballot envelopes from the November 2024 federal election, saying that the department is acting under federal records retention law and investigating whether election laws were followed. Dillon wrote that the request was based on a history of fraud convictions and other allegations in Wayne County and warned that failure to comply may result in the United States seeking a court order for production of such records. Here at the Justice Department, ensuring election integrity is paramount duty, she wrote on X. Sharing a video of her appearance on Fox News, many states failed to clean their non-citizen and deceased people from their voter rolls, and under my leadership, civil rights will continue working to ensure that only eligible American citizens vote in our elections. That's a no-brainer. That needs to happen big time. People will use, the going joke was, how do you add to the number of the Democrat Party? You go to the cemetery, right? I just hope that one day when I'm buried at the VA cemetery out here, that I don't get registered as a Democrat. I'm joking, and that ain't gonna happen. All right, so we're gonna leave that at that today. Wish her luck. Hopefully she gets off. Hopefully Miss Dillon sets the standard, and more municipalities and counties and states adhere to the law about their what do you call it, laws that they have to do for elections. All right. And then this morning there was a Supreme Court hearing on parole, how if migrants can be legitimately paroled into the United States. What are the procedures? I didn't get to hear that one, so I'll probably hear more about that tomorrow morning. All right. Tomorrow night is Pints and Politics in Gatesville at 6 p.m. at Ranchers. This weekend is our fundraiser here in Coryell County in Gatesville at the town square for what do you call it? For the fundraiser for the big fire they had out there to help with some employment stuff, and the majority to help reconstitute volunteer fire departments that participated in the fire. And then the 2nd of May and the 12th of May, there's the Coryell County Republican Party meet and greet for the runoff. The feed mill will be the location for May 2nd. We will have CEC, that's the County Executive Committee, a Republican Party meeting, and then we'll have the meet and greet also at the feed mill in Gatesville on Saturday from 11 to 1. And then on the 12th, in conjunction with the Coppers Cove Conservative Club, the Coryell County Republican Party is going to have another meet and greet at Giovanni's on Tuesday, 6 p.m. on the 12th of May. All right? And then early voting starts on the 18th. It goes through the 22nd of May. And the runoff is the 26th of May. All right? Remember, if you voted Democrat, you can't vote in the Republican primary or the runoff. All right? Keep that in mind. All right? Keep you out of trouble. Keep you out of jail. All right. So here are my socials. You can find me on X at James Pierce Jr. On Facebook, you can see me at James A. Pierce Jr. On ScrewTube, you can see me at the JP8 Report 67. And then on True Social, James A. Pierce. And then you can send me an email if you want at jp8report@gmail.com. So that is the day. Hope y'all like the shirt. That's from Nick Shirley. Okay, this is that one place, that one daycare center he found in Minneapolis. All right, and you can get these shirts at shirleydefense.com. I think that's the name of the URL. All right. So with that being said, I'm going to sign off. I will see y'all tomorrow morning for the JP's morning brief. I hope y'all all have a good afternoon. Wednesday, I'm going to church this evening. Y'all have a great day. All right. So this is James Pierce with the JPA report. I will catch you on the flip side. I'm out.